Jason, we have a whole bunch of reasons to talk to you today, but just want to talk baseball in general and maybe Tigers in particular, since you were there and watched everything that happened. What the heck happened in September to this team? Like, how did they just fall apart like that?
It was wild. I mean, they were riding such a wave of like we're better than you and we out aggressive you, and the base running stuff that we saw last night with Sogard and the Red Sox is exactly what the Tigers were doing to win a bunch of ball games. And I think part of this is they're a very young offense, which I think leads to pitchability. There are some specific places that you can throw some of those young hitters, and I think the league figured that out at one point and still has. When it's going well, this offense is great, but there are times when they struggle to make contact, and we've seen that in the Cleveland series. I think part of it too is the bullpen just wasn't as good as it was last year, and they kind of, they brought in Kyle Finnegan, who was great when he came over from Washington. He got hurt. That moves everybody up. The last couple spots have been kind of rotating, and so that's been tough as well. So when you have the combination of an offense that's becoming a little more pitchable as the league figures them out, plus leads going away, I think that can lead to mini spirals, which they had two of, in part because of the Mariners right before the All-Star break and what they came in and did to the Tigers, kind of took the mojo. But I also think it all happened all at once, in part in conjunction with a lead that they knew was a pretty healthy cushion. So whatever the opposite of urgency was, I think that washed over this team as well.
So it should be the Tigers, right? Because it was the Tigers that took the sting out of the Mariners the year before, when I was up in the booth with you and we broke bread and shared a meal. And then all of a sudden the Tigers go on an unbelievable run in the second half of last year and the Mariners fall apart. It was the Mariners right before the All-Star break this year, as you're pointing to, sweeping away the Tigers, stealing some of their mojo, propelling the Mariners to a second half, especially at home, that was historic. So inevitably it's going to be the Tigers and the Mariners Saturday, right?
That's my feeling, but the Tigers have to win one that's not Skubal on the mound against Cleveland. And boy, the way Cleveland built that ninth inning yesterday with Ramirez scampering to third without his helmet and a throw that got away from Torkelson, I think everybody that's rooted for the Tigers was thinking, oh boy, now this is going to go 11 and they're going to win on something stupid, the Guardians. So you got to win one there, and they've won enough games in bizarre fashion against the Tigers this year that I'm not going to count any chickens, although I do enjoy counting chickens.
Well, it's funny. I mean, down the...
Do you chase them down when you count them? How do you do that?
I do. If you see me in an empty field going 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, get over here.
I was glad to see
that. That's why everybody does it before they hatch. We just learned that's why everybody counts them before they hatch.
A lot easier to count.
Once they hatch, they sprint all over the countryside.
I was glad to see that Skubal was okay. I was a little worried about his mental state after the hit by pitch and everything. He obviously looked just fine yesterday. That had to be as good as you've seen him, right?
It's funny, like it was really, really good, but he actually threw a better outing against Cleveland earlier this year. That was a complete game shutout. And in the middle of it, he broke a bat, and on the final out of the inning, he broke this bat. He walked by the batter's box, picked up the little shards of baseball bat, and handed them to the bat boy. Like, you talk about being locked in on the mound. To walk over and pick up the little pieces of the thing that you just broke and say, here, I believe these are yours.
Wow.
Like, that is such great stuff. And he didn't even mean to do it in a snarky way. Like, he is just a menace. He's the right kind of competitor. There's a lot of Michael Jordan in there. Like, I have to be better than myself. And he loves the big batter, the big moment. Like if it is Mariners Tigers, just watch him against Julio. Like watch him against Cal Raleigh. There's going to be a little more and a little extra. I love that.
How did he become this? From Seattle U to arguably, he won the Cy Young a year ago, right? He's poised to do it again. How did he do it?
Yeah, it's the understanding of his body that came with injury. You know, he ends up with an elbow thing a couple of years ago, and as he's coming back from that, he realizes like every small movement in his body matters, all of that. And then it's a combination of that and the physics of seam shifted wake, of understanding how the air pulls the ball based on how you throw it, and that combination has become lethal because he knows why it's good physiologically, but he also knows why it's good in terms of like the geometry of pitch shapes. And, you know, like we had him on the podcast, and I might have said this on the show. It is one of my favorite facts about him. Like, he was a younger brother, and his older brother used to give him 10 points and the ball on their Nerf hoop. And he'd go and he'd try to score, and his shot would get blocked. His brother would take the ball. They'd play make it, take it. His brother would score 11 straight points, and it just made him so mad to no end. And that level of like, I need to be as good as the bigger kids, I think still kind of permeates what he is.
We have Lyle with us. Lyle is our board operator, producer extraordinaire, baseball guy, and Lyle really, really hates bunting. It's really like he's phobic, I would say, sort of like Brock's daughter and dogs. Like he gets freaked out.
He's a Gen Z ASU grad. I mean, that's what you need to know.
Really hates bunting, and so when the Tigers won yesterday with a McKinstry bunt, I was concerned Lyle might not even show up to work today. He is here, but he is still brazenly claiming that the bunt was a bad idea, that they shouldn't have done it, that they got lucky, that it worked out. How do you feel about small ball in general and maybe its importance or magnification in the postseason?
I think those are separate, the importance overall and then magnification in the postseason. I will say, Lyle, and I don't know what I'm walking into by saying this, but I'm a kindred spirit. I also really don't like when AJ Hinch bunts, which is very rare, 5 of them in the regular season from the Tigers in the sacrifice bunt department. I go up to AJ Hinch or text him and say, I don't even know you anymore. Who are you? And then he will say something to the media about how much I hate bunting. And so our running gag is I am his bunting shield because he doesn't like doing it either. But the amount of times the Tigers against Cleveland specifically have struck out to end an inning against their bullpen, I think he was just sick of it. Like the amount of times Cade Smith or Hunter Gaddis or Heron or Sabrowski have struck out the side against the Tigers or in a big spot struck out 2 with 2 in scoring position, I think he was just over it. Like, we have to take the lead right now. This is the best way to take the lead. I agree completely, Lyle. The big inning is the best play. But against Cleveland, who rarely has big innings, you need to be up 1. And so I think, would that ever get replicated in another series? Probably not, would be my answer. And I also dislike it because it kills your run expectancy for the most part.
I liked it in that situation yesterday too. I don't like it with a man on first and nobody out. I think that is
awful.
Mostly a done thing in baseball. Although the Cubs did it yesterday and it ended up working out for them. To me, it's much more about men on second, or in this case, a man on third, finding ways to put yourself in a different position to score a run. The idea of bunting a man from first to second, though, that's almost gone. I mean, that is outdated.
That's caveman. This is probably hard for you to judge and gauge a little, Jason, because you're kind of running around and now the games are all on national television. But when it all came down and the Tigers were able still to get in at the end of the day, even after the massive meltdown, did you get a sense that they looked at the bracket and said, ooh, there still is a path to the ALCS? Ooh, we get to avoid Toronto and New York and Boston. And if we can happen to win this wild card, it is a Seattle team and not one of the teams out of the East. Was there any of that vibe in Motown?
I don't think it had anything to do with the Mariners or the path. I think this Tigers team still feels like it's the best in the American League. Like, I think they actually still do believe they played terrible baseball, and they are of the opinion that they can beat anybody. And they've given themselves that after 31-11 last year and after the start to this season. So I think what they needed was a zeroing out of what they might have lost. Like the toughest thing for a human to do is deal with something that they've lost. Like watch anybody at the blackjack table who's on a bad bender, they're going to raise their stakes and they're going to lose more money. And I think part of what happened was they had it in their mind like, oh my goodness, I can't believe we let this happen. And now nobody cares about how you got into the playoffs. And I think that's a real thing for this team.
Problem with those guys is they've been counting their chickens before they've hatched, I would say, right? Like they're expecting to make money at the blackjack table, and when it goes away, they don't know what to do.
But again, think of the steps and the kinetic energy they've saved by doing the counting then.
Mm-hmm. That's a great take.
Can you imagine if chickens were running around blackjack tables in Vegas?
Yeah.
I mean, after they've hatched? Can you imagine?
I've seen a lot of crazy stuff in Vegas. I don't know. That wouldn't be that weird compared to some of the other things you see running around in Vegas. And some people might even call them chickens.